An early morning fire in Ireland destroys a home. A busy day in the state capitol as the House and Senate pass bills. Kurt Guxell reviews the Jasper Wildcat baseball victory from Wednesday. And Pat O'Keefe and Steve Lindauer talk about the World War II Vets Honor Flight on WJTS-4. These stories and weather are coming up in the 18 WJTS News. This is the WJTS News. I'm Bill Potter in for Bradford Rats. A home in the Ireland community was destroyed by fire early this morning. Just after 1 a.m., members of the Ireland Fire Department were called to the report of a fire at an older two-story house owned by Bruce Terwisky of Ireland. That was rented by Patrick Byrne. Authorities say Byrne and his family made it out safely after smelling something burning. They eventually found thick smoke in the vicinity of the home's laundry room. Deputies with the DuBois County Sheriff's Department say the house was engulfed in flames upon their arrival and made sure all of the home's occupants had exited the house safely. A neighboring home was damaged, but there were no injuries. 4 trucks and 19 firefighters were on the scene 3 hours. Firefighters were called back to the home just after 6 o'clock this morning after the fire had rekindled. The Jefferson Township Volunteer Fire Department, along with 4 men, were called for tanker assistance. Ireland firefighters were also assisted by the DuBois Rural Electric Cooperative and Memorial Hospital Emergency Medical Services. Yesterday was one of the busiest days of this year's session for Indiana lawmakers. The day is known to lawmakers as Third Reading Day. It marked the last chance for both chambers of the Indiana General Assembly to pass bills before the start of conference committees. Several major bills did pass on Wednesday, the biggest of which was House Bill 1019. That eliminates local boards that determine wages for construction projects worth more than $350,000. The bill passed in the Senate by a vote of 27-22. District 48 State Senator Mark Messmer of Jasper did not vote on the bill. And owner of local contractor Messmer Mechanical, Messmer says though he didn't vote, items were so close due to many concerns that were raised.
There was a lot of concern on both sides of the issue, the proponents and the opponents, afraid of, concerned about how it'll affect just the construction industry as a whole in the state of Indiana.
The Senate spent more than 2 hours debating the bill before putting it to a vote. It now goes back to the House for a concurrence vote before heading to Governor Mike Pence's desk for his signature. Yesterday also marked a key day for the state budget. The Senate passed its version of the budget by a 42-8 vote. The House passed its budget during the first half of this session. Messmer says there will be a number of changes as new state revenue numbers come about.
Just based on monthly reports that we've had for the last 6 months, I would suspect that the budget forecast will probably be less, but maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised and be no change. But so the next 2 weeks will be then taking that updated forecast and then squeezing the numbers and making adjustments to deal with the final budget changes that'll be voted on April 29th.
In all, the Senate moved 23 bills through on Wednesday. Yesterday was also a busy day in the Indiana House. In a roughly 2-hour session, the House moved 15 bills through, with the only one generating much debate is Senate Joint Resolution 19. That resolution, which would add a balanced budget amendment to the state's constitution, passed by an 83-15 vote after barely making it out of a House committee earlier in the week. The bill was mostly opposed by Democrats who argued that the amendment was unnecessary. District 63 State Representative Mike Brown of Jasper and District 74 Representative Lloyd Arnold of Leavenworth voted for the amendment. Brown, who serves on the House Ways and Means Committee, addressed the full House to voice his support. He says it is a needed step for the state.
We do basically balance the budget through language that's in there, but not with the ironclad part of what an amendment would do. So some think that's over the top, it's belaboring the point. as I said on the floor, I think it's important that we do it. I think it's important that other states follow suit, because I think the most important thing is that the federal government eventually does it.
Meanwhile, Arnold says the amendment is in line with the state's desire to spend wisely.
It's really just telling the people of the state of Indiana, and I think even everybody here, we want to have a balanced budget. When we have a federal government that's $19 trillion in debt, we want to keep it where we're being very good with our money here. But also, we know at the turn of the century here in just the state of Indiana, our budgets weren't very clear sometimes. We'd actually go on some maybe borderline as in balancing the budget. And it just really puts a good example out there so we don't get to where the federal government is at today.
The House also dealt with Senate Bill 566, which addresses numerous issues in education. These include studying the possibility of replacing the I-STEP Plus exam with a test that's more in line with state standards, and determining whether or not formal collective bargaining between school districts and an exclusive representative can start prior to August 1st. Senate Bill 566 passed out of the House by a 70-25 vote after some debate. Conference committee work began today as the House and Senate worked to make compromises on several bills, including the budget. This year's legislative session ends on April 29th. More news is coming up on 18 WJTS. We're local people watching local people.